this is Bullet, aka the Passive Aggressive Sherpa. In today's video, I'm finally ready to talk about Gambit. I've got some tips and I've got some thoughts on the Sleeper Simulant with regards to its suggested tuning or nerfing. When I first started playing Gambit, I ran with the Sleeper Simulant because that's pretty much my go-to power weapon in PvE situations, and Gambit is a mostly PvE situation, mostly. Then all the drama started around it. All the people complaining about how powerful it is and how it can one-shot invaders, and the list of tear-filled complaints piled up. Even Paul Tassi, a writer for Forbes, jumped on the anti-sleeper bandwagon. I disagreed with him, and it appeared that I was in the minority because the tweets in response to his were absolutely massive, and my tweet response, not so much. I was getting pissed off at how shallow everyone was being on the topic because every response missed the point I was trying to make. But I had to wonder, if everyone feels so strongly about it, maybe I should investigate. Maybe I was wrong. This process took longer than I thought. It evolved into topics of strategy and common sense. I spent hours playing Gambit. I used the Sleeper for a while just to get some footage with it. But my whole argument was that you could play and do well without it. I hope to give some advice on the game and show that the Sleeper doesn't have to dominate the game. And if it's dominating your gameplay style, perhaps your play style needs some work. I don't claim to be an expert at this new game mode. I just reset my rank for the first time the other night. At the time I started making this video, I was only about halfway up the ranking system. But the amount of time played doesn't make a person good at the game. Playing a game well makes a person good at the game. I have good matches and I have bad matches. In fact, the other day I did such a stupid thing that it cost us the game. I'll get into that in a minute. The footage you're watching is actually from that game. My goal with this video is to provide common sense tactics, just not seeing a lot of people use at this point in the game, and then to briefly discuss the Sleeper Simulant issue. If you're unaware of this issue, it goes like this. Some people feel that it's too easy to kill invaders as well as too easy to kill players when invading. It can one-shot kill a bitch from across the map. And because enough people have been complaining about it, Bungie has suggested they'll be tuning this weapon so that it won't one-shot kill, yet still remains or still has its same damage output against other PvE enemies. But before we dive into this issue, we need to talk strategy and common sense in the game first. I'm going to assume you already know the basics of the game. Kill ads, bank motes, kill invaders, kill the Primeval. If you don't know how to play this game, there's other videos out there. I even have one. I'll put a link in the description below to one of those videos. This video is for those who are looking to step up their game. Oh, and one other thing. Please keep in mind that this is a new game mode. There are different ways to play and win. These are basic strategies I have employed, and I use the mistakes I've made and the mistakes I've seen others make as examples here. I don't have game footage of everything I talk about. Most of this video is going to be taken from a single match, which I'm not showing yet. I will probably add clips from other matches to emphasize a point, but for the most part, this is just going to be straight gameplay. First on the list, situational awareness. This game at time requires a great deal of situational awareness. I've talked about this in other videos, and it applies to Gambit as well. A perfect example of this is a screw-up I made the other day, causing our entire team to lose the match. My fuck-up was so bad that it caused someone on our team to message me and call me a blueberry. I was so furious. I wanted to jump through my Xbox and slap the shit out of this obvious douchebag. I didn't respond to him because I have little time for bullshit right now, but I had been recording that game. In fact, it's what you've been watching now. And my plan was to use it to call out this douchebag for his epic douchery. It was a few days later, when reviewing the game, that I realized I was the one that fucked up. I have so much going on lately. Focusing on any one thing at any one time has been an issue for me. From a death in the family, work, health issues, and least of all, trying to capture the Gambit footage for this video that I've been promising for a couple of weeks now. My goal in this particular match was to get good gameplay footage and study the Sleeper Simulant. That was my focus. What should have been my focus was the actual round in the match I was playing. What you're about to see happen here is tragically stupid on my part. I wasn't paying attention to the big picture. The round was so close. We almost had the Primeval defeated. I see this guy near me. He's dead. There's an invader. My thought was to revive this guy so we could all do more damage to the Primeval. The idiocy of that decision was that our Primeval had only a sliver of health left. Had I just thrown a grenade or fired a round or two at it, hell, I could have farted in its general direction and killed the thing, it would have died. We would have won the match. I was too caught up in the moment to see the bigger picture. And not seeing the bigger picture, not being situationally aware, is how matches are oftentimes lost. In fact, they're lost most of the time because of that. Another example I see all the fucking time, and it drives me crazy. People hoarding fucking motes when you have enough to call a Primeval. When you play next time, look around for that, because what I'm about to say you will see happen all the time. Here's the deal. When you hear the drifter say, you got enough motes to call a Primeval, stop what you're doing, take your motes to the bank. Because even though you alone may not have enough motes, the total motes your team is hoarding right now is enough to call in that Primeval. Game after game, I see morons running around collecting motes when we only need a few to hit 75. There was a match when I saw two different idiots running around with nearly a dozen motes each, and we needed just one to call the Primeval. I literally stood there for a good 5 seconds watching these fucking idiots not bank their motes. I was screaming at my screen for them to bank their fucking motes. I finally ran over, killed an ad, collected the mote, banked it, called the Primeval, while these fucking idiots are still running around trying to get 15 motes each. Like they planned to take these fucking motes to dinner after the match was over. It was fucking disturbing. Situational awareness, my friends. Pay attention to what's going on in the game. It sounds simple. It's not. We all do stupid things. The way to cut back on the number of stupid things we do is to be aware of our surroundings. How many motes do we need to call the Primeval? Is the gate about to open? Should I go through? Should I wait? Situational awareness. It all comes down to that. And speaking of the gate and going through and not, up next, Invading and Invaders. There are good times to invade and bad times. I'll keep this simple. Just because the portal is open does not mean you should invade. Save that open portal for when you can invade and do the most amount of damage. When you see a lot of gray in the bar of the opposing team, that's a good time to invade. That gray reflects the amount of motes they're holding. When you see a lot of gray, that means get your ass over there and aim for the guy with the most motes. So, a bad time to invade would be when there's little to no gray showing. A good time to invade, when their Primeval's health is getting low. A bad time to invade, when their Primeval's health is at full. I see people do this all the time, and it makes me think they're idiots. Just because you can go in and kill all 4 of those dirty bastards on the other team, it does nothing to help your team. If the Primeval's health is at or near full, you've accomplished nothing for your team. You wasted the portal, and the only benefit was to your overall stats, you selfish prick. I mostly don't invade. Mostly. I'm usually not good at it. I try to play to my strengths instead. But I have some tips aside from what I just mentioned. If you plan to invade, have some heavy ammo, have your super, and always go after the person with the most amount of motes. If you're invading when the other team has their Primeval, as mentioned, do so when their Primeval has been damaged. The more invading kills you get, the more health gets added back to their Primeval. We had a guy on our team that was killing it. Every time their Primeval had about a quarter of its health left, this guy ran through the portal and took out enough Guardians to fully restore their Primeval's health. It was awesome. That's how you do it. You don't do anything by going in when they've got no motes pocketed and they've got a Primeval that just spawned. Stop that. That makes you look like a dumbass when you do that. Moving on to managing motes and mote hoarding. Probably the most important thing in the game is mote management. I know it feels great when you deposit the max amount of motes, but the risk is almost always too great. The almost exception to this is at the start of each round. But then, still, unless you really need to complete a bounty, don't do it. Depositing 5 and 10 motes at a time is how you win this game. But this game is often lost by dying while hoarding a crap ton of motes. Dying with motes is the biggest sin in the game. You should feel complete shame when you die with more than about 5 motes on you. And if you die with more than 10 motes on you, you should seriously take a break from the game and get your shit together. If we go back and look at the match results of that game clip I showed of me costing us the game. Yes, I cost us the game, but look at the motes my team lost. The top guy on our team lost 34 fucking motes. Are you kidding me with that? In total, our team lost 71 motes. That's almost a Primeval. Just imagine how quicker we would have summoned that Primeval had my teammates had not been so goddamn careless with their motes. Even Mr. Douchebag that called me a blueberry lost more motes than I did. It's disgraceful. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I was playing late into the night the other day, and I lost, I think it was 29 or maybe even 30 plus motes. I wanted to back out before the results screen. I knew I was going to be the one who lost the most motes in the game. I was playing like shit, and I knew it, and it was going to be my last game of the night. Turns out, someone on our team lost 40 plus motes in that match. Our team basically lost more than the cost to summon a Primeval in motes. So bank those motes as soon as you get 5 motes. As soon as you start getting 5 motes, head over to the bank. Sometimes, you'll have to kill other ads on the way, and you can get up to 10 very easily just by, you've got 5 or 6, start trying to head back and kill what you can on the way if they're in the way. That's how you do it. That's how you win this game. You bank this shit. And for the love of all that's holy, when you hear that the sound is played, that someone's invading, and you've got more than a few motes on you, get to cover. Hide behind anything you can, and then carefully look around for the invader's position. Do not engage unless he is close and attacking you. Your only goal at this point is to stay alive until he's gone and not lose those motes. I realize that sometimes it's unavoidable. You think you've hidden yourself, and from out of nowhere you get sniped or one-shotted. It happens. The problem is if it's happening to you all the time, you're the problem, not the invader. I first thought if I had a ton of motes on me that I needed to run to the very back of the map where I spawned in, if at all possible, because that would be the safest place, and I would die most of the time when attempting to make it back there. What I have since learned is that if there's too much open space between me and that area, then I don't go there. I hide behind the nearest solid thing I can find, I load my fusion rifle, and I listen and I look. Because, and this is very important, even though the invader does not show on the map in your HUD, you can tell where they are or when they're getting close to you. The screen tints redder, and there's a slight audio cue as well that I'm not able to describe, but these things combined, if you're paying attention, will let you know when the invader's close. This is when you just have to brace yourself and stand your ground. And one last thing on the topic of motes. Don't be a mote hogger. Nothing pisses me off more than taking out several ads with a super, and right fucking next to me, some fucking asswipe runs up and collects those motes while I'm still floating in the air from calling my super. And they've collected all the motes before I've even hit the ground. Last night I had 14 motes. I hadn't planned on grabbing that many motes, but a high value target was in front of me. I killed it, and I was suddenly at 14 motes. I started running back to deposit them. There was a single ad in my way. I shot him, killed him. He dropped the mote right next to me, and I'm now running at it. I'm just a second away from it, and another douchebag who was just a hair closer to me runs by and grabs it. People like this deserve every bad fucking thing that happens to them in life. All I'm saying is, just stop hoarding the motes. Realize that sometimes I realize sometimes we're going to run over people's motes. It's going to happen. But there are some that seem only able to survive in the game by running over everyone else's motes. Stop that. It makes you a douchebag. Don't be a douchebag. Now, on the topic of blockers in the bank, keep the bank area clean of blockers. The number of times I die and see others die because we can't bank motes because no one stopped to kill the blockers is sickening. If you're playing with a fire team you can communicate with, just designate someone to do this. They can also collect motes, that's fine. But when they hear the sound of that blocker spawning in, they need to stop what they're doing and take care of it. If you're playing solo, you need to do this job yourself, because chances are the other players on the team aren't going to be paying a bit of attention. They're just going to be set all hell bent on collecting 15 motes, because that's what everybody at this point seems to give a shit about, is for some reason collecting 15 motes. So it's going to be up to you to take care of the ads, and they ain't going to dick with it until they're ready to deposit. And then they're going to try to deposit, and the place is going to be full of blockers, 5 blockers or more, and as soon as that happens, you're going to be sitting there trying to kill out these blockers so you can deposit those 15 motes, and that's when an invader's going to spawn in. So don't let that happen. Keep the area clean. That is so important. If you're running around the area and you hear one of these things spawn in, just take 30 seconds to, if you're close enough, just run over and kill it. That's all you have to do. Keep the area clean. You'll win more matches. All right, now killing the Primeval. When the Primeval spawns in, there are going to be several other lesser evils that spawn in with them. Kill them first. You can do damage to the Primeval, of course, but save your supers for when the Slayer damage is at the very minimum of 3 times or higher. Bungie recently posted about what the Primeval Slayer damage means, and I still don't get it. I suppose if I actually thought about it for more than 5 seconds, I would get it. But I read it, and I was like, this sounds like math. I don't understand what they're talking about. I ain't got time for that. But honestly, they make the stuff too damn complicated. With Bungie, it's never simple. It's like, you get a higher Slayer damage by killing the blockers around it. But if it's the second Wednesday of the 3rd month, you get more Slayer damage applied quicker if you called your Primeval within 8.5 seconds of the other team calling their Primeval. So if you want to read what they have said about it, hit pause and read it. But this video is about basic common sense strategies. Basically, the higher the Primeval Slayer multiplier, the more damage can be done to said Primeval. Pay attention to that Primeval Slayer damage multiplier. As I said, the higher it is, the more damage you can do to the Primeval. I can't stress this enough. Primevals can be melted quickly. The key is focusing on the Primeval with your supers when the Slayer damage is high. Personally, I don't like to use my super until the Primevals at least reach a level of 4, preferably 6 or higher. Anything before that and it's almost a waste of your super. That being said, if you're behind and you see that the Slayer damage is just 2 times and someone else has just started using their super, go for it. It's quite possible to not only catch up but take the lead. I have earned many of the Never Say Die medals this way. Do it at your own risk. It doesn't always work. And if it doesn't work, you're probably going to lose the round or the match because of it. Now, there is some logic to being the second team to summon the Primeval, because when spawned, your Primeval already comes with a Primeval buff. And if you have 3 or more players in your fire team, and you can coordinate this, that all have your supers, you can melt it. It doesn't mean you're going to win. Again, I want to keep this simple. Summon your Primeval as soon as you can. Kill the mini bosses around it, then focus on the Primeval itself. Once it hits about that 4 times Slayer damage, start dropping your heavy into it. Once it hits 6 times Slayer damage, everyone needs to hit it with their super. And that's pretty much going to destroy it. But if you're with the fire team and you can communicate, you can take it out quicker if everyone else has their super and uses it on the Primeval at the same time, even if it has a lower Slayer multiplier. But you run the risk of being invaded and wasting all those supers if that invader kills just a couple of you. You'll all end up with your Primeval back at full health, no supers and no ammo, and you're screwed. But if you're coordinating with a fire team, and you're behind, when that Slayer spawns in, the Drifter's going to say something like, focus your energy on it, or he's got whatever. As soon as he says that, if you all unleash your supers on him and all your heavy and everything you got, it's a good chance you can melt them and take the lead. But that only works if everybody's coordinated. But if you see someone immediately hit it with their super and you have one, it might be a good idea to wait for them to use their super and then you jump in and use it right after or at the same time. But like I said, trying to keep it simple, you can melt that Primeval quickly. Just as soon as it spawns in, pay attention to the Slayer damage and do damage to the Primeval based on the Slayer damage multiplier that you see. Alright, moving on to when to use your super. Depending on the gear you have, you can generate your super multiple times in a round. You don't need to save it. Sometimes I use it on ads. I see a bunch of them grouped together and I nail them with it. Motes for everyone. Other times I use it when I invade. Then again on the Primeval at the end of the round. But a couple of things to note here about using it on the Primeval. Again, pay attention to the other team's Primeval health. Last night I did a bonehead thing. I wasted my super on our Primeval. We were in the first round. Primeval had a high level of Slayer damage stacked, but the other team was so close to killing their Primeval, and I wasn't paying attention to that. I was like, high Primeval damage, we can take out our Primeval right now. And I unloaded my super onto it, and by the time I just finished unloading my super, and the other team won, because I wasn't paying attention to how close they were. And now I started the next round having to build my super all the way back up. It's okay to use your super on ads. Do that. You don't have to save your super for just the boss fight. Depending on the armor, like I said, you can get your super back almost instantly sometimes. So use it. Take out those ads. If you see a bunch of them grouped together, especially when there's one of those high priority targets, the ones that are just glowing, and you nail them and a few other ads, I mean, there's 15, 20, or 30 motes for your team to grab right then and there, and it's quick. So use it. So I've seen people clear out an entire section, 2 different people using their supers at 2 different sides of the group of ads, and every ad was taken out in seconds. Use your supers to help. You don't have to save them. On to the Sleeper Simulant issue. Yes, I have been vaporized by it multiple times. I have also been one-shotted by other weapons. I have gone back and forth on this issue, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm standing by my original theory, that it doesn't need to be tuned or nerfed. But let me try to explain further. The whole point to the Sleeper is that it's a beast of a weapon. It works. It does everything in Gambit well. The Sleeper is perfect for this game mode. I played for hours yesterday. I only got killed by it 3 or 4 times. By invaders in general, I was killed by bows, rocket launchers, and once by a goddamn scout rifle. Who uses scout rifles anymore? My point is, my play style usually keeps me safe, because if I have Motes, when someone invades, I hide and take cover. I listen to my surroundings. I made a ton of amazing escapes yesterday, and it was a blast. I had one invader more or less chase after me and my 15 Motes across the entire map. He first was coming at me with a super. I heard him pop it. I wasn't sure exactly where he was, but I had a good idea, and I made a run for it. I was heading to the back of the map where we spawn in. I had a lot of things to take cover behind along the way, so I was dodging behind this and that. I was on my hunter. I ran, I jumped, I dodged until his super ran out, and he started shooting at me with the Sleeper. He hit me once. I dodged, kept running. The whole time keeping my eyes on his timer. I had to survive 6 more seconds. I was now at the back of the cave, just around the corner of it. I switched to my Telesto. He threw a grenade in the room. It hit the wall opposite of me. It was damaging me, but not enough to kill me. He had 2 seconds left. I could hear him about to enter the room. I pulled the trigger, hoping it would charge and fire as he entered the room. But time ran out just as I saw the red glow from his character, and suddenly he was gone. My shot hit the wall right behind where he would have been. It was exhilarating, but it's more than that. In order to explain it, I have to fire a shot at Bungie. There have been many things they have promised to do that they have not done yet. Map repetition, for me, is one of them. Every time I think they've fixed it, I get stuck in the same map 2 or 3 times in a row. There have been several things they've promised us, and they've delivered, but they delivered them broken, and we're still waiting to get them fixed. To be honest, I don't trust Bungie to properly tune the Sleeper and not completely fuck it up. What I see happening is that they will tune it. It will start doing less damage. It'll take about a week or 2 before enough people complain about it, before Bungie will start looking into it. Once they say they look into it, it might get fixed in the next hotfix. Or it could go the way of the repetitives map issue and still be broken several months later. In my opinion, it's not worth it. The best way to avoid being killed by an invader is by paying attention. Almost every single time I was killed by an invader, it was because I couldn't figure out where the invader was and they got the drop on me. It almost never had to do with the weapon they chose. As a solo player, I tend to play better alone than with friends. I pay more attention to my surroundings. No one's talking in my ear. When playing with friends, I start to rely too much on all of us calling out where the invader is. I don't pay enough attention to all the signs that the game provides you when an invader is getting close. But it almost never fails. If I am killed by that invader, it's usually because I wasn't paying attention to the signs and I didn't even notice that the invader was approaching. And the thing I've noticed about people using the Sleeper is that they pretty much tend to not move around much. Once you see that red beam, you can kind of figure out where they are, and you can kill them. I've taken out several invaders who were using the Sleeper Simulant because they stayed in place. I was able to either maneuver around to get a better shot at them. I was able to, because I was already hiding behind something, I would kind of be able to peek out at them, and I'd have my rocket launcher with tracking enabled, and I would, as soon as I'd peek out a couple quick times to get their attention, and then as soon as they'd peek out, boom, I'd hit them with that rocket launcher. There's ways to use what they do to your advantage. You don't have to tune the weapon, just play smarter. All that being said, if they could just tune it slightly so that you have to get a headshot or something for a one-shot kill, I don't have a problem with it. But I really don't see it as necessary. I see it more of an issue of players not wanting to change their game style because of this weapon. And they don't realize there's other weapons out there that are far more dangerous, or at least just as dangerous as the Sleeper Simulant. It's just right now, the Sleeper Simulant is the meta in the game, and as soon as they move on to something else, there's going to be something else that one-shots and that people complain about. Moving on, talking about my current loadout for Gambit. I've stopped using the Sleeper in Gambit. I've found a better combo, and it's really stepped up my game. I was relying too much on the Sleeper. My setup now is pretty damn good. It lacks the punch I got from the Sleeper, but it makes up for it in almost every other way. I go with the Bygones in the primary slot, then the Telesto in the energy slot, and from the Iron Banner I use the rocket launcher, the Roar of the Bear. It comes with tracking and kill clip. But regardless, find what works for you or what you feel the most comfortable with. And if you're not getting the job done with those loadouts, try changing them up. It's either your loadout or it's your gameplay. Look at all of it and be better. You can do it. You just have to try new things. And that's about it for this video. Remember, if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It's always appreciated. And if we could get 1,187 likes on this video, that'd be great. But most of all, thanks for watching. But seriously, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.